And he is muted.
Again.
Yep.
That's because I
Hey.
muted from thing. So what we did there, guys, is something I'm experimenting with. I want to start having the show like 5 minutes early, not us be on stage 5 minutes early, but just kind of like we started 5 minutes early. It gets the people kind of, oh, okay, the live has gone, it's gone live, and they don't miss out on anything that we might be talking about at the beginning of a show, an update. I've been trying to do this with my Twitch streams. If I put like, hey, I'm going live and do it for like 5 minutes. I notice a lot of streamers will also go like 5 minutes where they'll say, stream starting soon. I feel like we need to incorporate that into our show. This way it gives people a chance to be in the show. I mean, we got people like James that come in,
I suppose you want to play that heavy metal bumper music too and just ruin everything for everybody. You
Those
podcasters don't know what you're doing.
Heavy metal baby buggy bumper.
What's up, Lighthouse? Welcome. Me and Lighthouse have great talks on my streams. We talk about everything from quantum computing to all kinds of really awesome stuff that we talk about. So if you guys haven't followed him, go follow him on his channel. I don't know if he has those kinds of conversations over there. I need to go in there more so we can have them conversations. But he's a good guy. Of course, there's Sound Zeus. He's okay. He's just Scruffy's like mean older brother. So either way, welcome guys to our second half episode of Cursed Objects. Last week we talked about a couple different cursed objects. I know that we had discussed the Black Diamond, and we got a couple other good ones in there. What I want to talk about this week is, well, how do you think curses build up? Do you think it's intent? Do you think it's will? Do you think it's something that, if Spider's like, oh, I hate Steven so much, I'm going to give him this transformer that I hate even more, but I'm not going to tell him I hate it. I'm going to tell him it's my favorite one, but I'm going to put all this hatred into it, give it to him. Do you think it's possible for him to be cursed, or does he have to know you've cursed him first for that to happen? And I put this in regards to Robert the Doll, who we did not talk about last week, but I would like to put that on the spot here, that in 1904, a doll was given to him either by his grandfather or by a Bohemian slave. It's not 100% sure what that entailed, but there's different accounts. But the doll was said to be cursed. It was said to be a cursed doll. But Robert and his owner lived for years. I mean, he died with the doll. So that leads me to believe, is one person's curse another person's blessing? Discuss.
Let's ask the defendant first, since he's the one being cursed.
Yeah, you're the defendant.
All right. Okay, so first off, to answer Lighthouse Flame's question, what is a curse? I would describe a curse, personally, as when you have ill intent towards another person. And to answer your question about, like, do you have to curse an object and does the other person have to know and all that? I think it's kind of it can be on a case-by-case basis. Like, if you don't believe in curses at all, then I think it's less likely to affect you. But at the same time, if you do believe in curses, then I think that could make a curse potentially more powerful. And I think you can curse objects, like by putting your negative energy into an object and then giving it to someone else. But I would say the most common form of curse, in my opinion, is like, like back when witches were big back in the day, and they would be like, oh, I curse you. Like, I hope you go home and step on a Lego and stub your toe. Then that would curse someone to go home, step on a Lego and stub their toe. That's kind of how I think it is. And curses can be discreet or they can be an open thing. It depends on how strong you're trying to make the curse. And I'm going to fix my camera right now.
Well, I'll pick it up from there. We talked in length last week about transference of energy, which is a scientific principle, and we know that, emotionally we can transfer nervous energy and we can transfer bad vibes, and we can do that kind of thing between people and environments and objects and that kind of thing. And I think a lot of it has to do with that. If the person has sufficient personal energy, which is, it's hard to quantify that too. I know Lighthouse is asking about scientific things, so it's difficult to put that in a term you can measure, really. And so trying to decide how much is enough anger and bad feelings and negativity and hatred and whatever to pour into something to get it to actually affect a person, it's difficult to say, which makes it kind of up in the air. You can't say one way or the other. Now, on the other hand, you could disregard a lot of that by having the declaration, because then you've planted a seed. If you say, you know what, I'm cursing you because of this, because you suck, because of this, and this curse is going to follow you forever, and it's going to do this and this and this. And you don't, the best way to do it would be not to be specific, because you want the person to use their own imagination. You want someone to see it. This is not a tutorial on how to curse someone, by the way. This is all
We're not
hypothetical.
responsible for you getting cursed or curses.
If you go
or
out
anything
cursing
I
like
can
people,
give you
that's
that
on you.
tutorial if you want. Just ask me. I'll help you out with that.
But
he is no way affiliated with us.
If you plant the seed that something generically bad is going to happen to a person, and you are able to do it in a way that they get the thought that, well, maybe something bad will happen, then everything that's bad in their life that ever happens will suddenly become part of the curse. And they will then become self-fulfilling in the fact that they'll always be afraid of it. Their own personal attitude will be lessened, because they will always expect the worst out of everything, which will cause the worst to happen, because that's manifestation, which is another scientific thing that happens. Your attitude takes into account a lot of these kind of things. Your mind is the most powerful tool that you have, and it can also be the most powerful enemy that you have if you allow it to be that. So I think it's more effective to do the declaration way rather than not tell somebody, unless you're sufficiently self-confident that, hey, you know what? I totally cursed that guy and he don't even know. And then, maybe something happens from that, maybe it doesn't, because you can't really control that. Whereas on the other one, you're trying to control their feelings about it, which is far more effective.
Now, I do want to say this. I posted this question in my chat, or in my on my FB page a while back, and one of the young ladies that responded to it, she said, and I didn't want to put her name out there. She said she went to an antique store out in Michigan and she got sick, didn't feel right, and then learned later on that the place had been used for voodoo practices. Now, usually, like Spider said, we're usually dealing with intention or intent or premeditated knowledge. You let the person know, hey, I curse you, you're going to fall into a well one day. Or, as as absurd it could be, you're going to stumble and fall at some point. A very broad, open-eyed generalization of said curse. So my thing is, how do you think a person that didn't know that the place was, cursed essentially from practicing voodoo felt that way? You have a lot of people that are empathetic to different scenarios and situations, and they feel a certain way and they act a certain way in those situations. How do you feel like this person was able to feel that without knowing it? Because, places like Treblinka, Dachau, places like that, we know what happened there. So we're going to already have that implanted in our brain that this is going to be a place of great sorrow. But a place she's never been to, now she did say she is kind of leery of antiques, like, just because you don't know what kind of energy those antiques store. Do you think that was it? Do you think it was, sort of she knew before, but then all of a sudden, she felt that way based on knowing that?
There's always already a preconception, I would say. If you just went in completely, fully blind, just be like, oh, hey, this is an antique store. There's some cool stuff in here. Right. Don't tell me anything about the background of these. I just want to buy these. I think it'd be great. This looks awesome. And then went home, the chances of something affecting you, unless, again, the energy transfer was really of a high magnitude, are going to be super low. Now, if you bought something that was in the home of a serial killer, and it was there for all of his killings, within sight of all of his killings, to absorb all of the different like energy and all the anguish and all the pain and then the hate and the whatever, everything in there.
Not to mention the blood.
It could very well affect you whether you knew anything about like that or whether you even believed anything like that was possible, because all of that gets sucked into an item like that. It's not
Right.
always one specific item though. Like if you bought a pen that was in the house, maybe the pen didn't absorb anything because it's a meaningless object. Or maybe it's the most cursed item in the guy's house. Maybe he used that to write out all the notes before he killed somebody. I mean, it all depends on the amount of attachment to something and the amount of energy expended towards it or around it. That's why places like the sites of the Holocaust and things like that, you may not have done a lot of research on that, but if you go there, you're going to feel that something is different, that
Right.
something is not quite right there,
Right.
regardless. Like there's just a sense, a stillness. There's just like, it's hard to describe. We don't have a lot of places like that here, but we have a few. We have sites of massacres of Native Americans and things here, and you can go there. And there's like, again, places like Gettysburg. Gettysburg is,
Right.
it's a weird place. It's just a big open field now, but you go there, and it's a weird feeling. And you might not even really think much of it supernatural wise. You might just think, oh yeah, there was a terrible battle here, whatever, as a point of fact. But when you go there, there's something in the air.
Yeah, I think too, with I think when you kill indiscriminately, when you could just pop off a shot or stab somebody or remove somebody from this plane of existence, and it's in a sad state. I think a lot of times that you have that energy that sits, that residual energy, because energy can't be destroyed. It just takes a different form. So this residual energy sits, and once it mounts up enough of a feeling, I think it takes on not a persona per se, but I think it takes on a sort of a level of, I don't want to say sentience, but close.
Tulpa, almost.
No, because the
Not quite.
tulpa itself is thought driven.
Okay. Yeah.
The energy of death or curses is intent driven. It's a little bit different.
Maybe more like a ghost echo almost.
Well, the problem with ghosts, and this is what I think ghosts are. I think ghosts are
Energy, right?
that residual energy. Yes,
Yeah.
seeking to go home to its, it's not there anymore. Once you die, the part of your soul flees. It's gone. It goes to wherever, however you believe, back to your maker, right? Well, there's that energy that sits. And if it's not resolved, or if you went out in a tragic way, that exhaust energy, if you will, is looking, kind of an imprint. Yeah. Is still looking for that person. It's still looking for that item. It's still looking for that object. So in that regard, I think what we see when it comes to curses is, in a way, like I think, like you said, if it's in the room with a serial killer, it gets the blood on it, because there is power in blood. We like to, we like to joke and brag, but a lot of ancient
Blood magic.
civilizations use blood for rituals, blood for magic.
Avatar
Blood actually has it.
Bloodbender.
Blood actually has its own properties. It does things for the body. It's basically the body's juice, more or less, the body's life juice, to keep everything moving, the heart pumping, your cardiovascular system moving and grooving, So I think that there's power in that. It's basically the life energy of a human being. Whether you want to, however you want to look at it from a scientific standpoint, or you want to look at it from a non-scientific standpoint, which is perfectly fine. Either or is acceptable, I think, when you're dealing with curses. So I think if you get an object that has blood on it, or using somebody's blood in regards to setting the curse, I think that has a different regard, because some people just say, like say you send Steven that cursed transformer again. We'll go back to that example. He looks you dead in your face and says, well, screw you and this stupid transformer. And then he just breaks it. And then he doesn't believe it. He doesn't
Then I
believe
just
it at all.
cursed Spider.
No, he just doesn't believe it.
Oh,
He
okay.
says, you're not cursing me. I'm not going to let it happen. And that's it. He's not afraid of it. He doesn't go out of his house biting his nails, worrying about it. So is he not affected still? Is your will and intent greater than his? And I think a lot of times that's what we have. I think we have, like you said, unless it was like something to do with blood or an entity, I think 9 times out of 10, it's just whose will is greater. Is it your will? Is
Yes.
your will greater than
Mhm.
his, or is his will greater than yours? Because if his will is greater, he's not going to care. He
Mhm.
might even take it to his home, give it a little bath, shine it up real nice, turn it sideways. You know?
And
Transform it.
that's exactly how the theory of modern magic is supposed to work among people who are, as I've talked about before, left-hand path oriented. It's all willpower.
Right.
The basic idea is that most of the people in the world, because of either TV or the internet or whatever, the various entertainment or whatever, we've all been kind of dumbed down, and the collective will of the world is fairly low. People can
Right.
be convinced of a lot of things very easily. And that's how most things like bad luck and curses flourish right now,
Right.
because you have a few people, and I'm not talking about like, oh, there's a select Illuminati or there's a group of shadowy people at the top of the government.
Like
That's
a
not what I'm
few
saying.
hundred or a
I'm
few
just
thousand,
saying
maybe.
one out of every 10 to 20, 30,000 people, etc.,
Oh, okay.
might be a little bit more, and that's just a statistic I pulled out. It's
Yeah.
not a real statistic. I'm just
He
making,
just made it
for
up.
sake of argument. For the sake of argument, one out of 30,000 people might be a bit above everybody else as far as willpower.
Right.
Like, and I don't want to come off like I'm a fantastic person necessarily, but let's talk about me
He's not. He's not.
and smoking cigarettes, right?
When did you start
I don't
smoking?
smoke. I don't generally on a regular basis. I can go out even today, have a smoke or two or three, and then the next couple of days just be like, "Nah, I'm done," and put it away. And it doesn't
Right.
bother me. I don't have a Jones for it. I don't have an itch for it. I don't, and that's not a case of me not necessarily not being addicted to it, because I have other problems with addiction that I deal with myself. I'm not like, people are going to be like, "Oh, Spider's on drugs. He's got problems. We need to have
No,
an
he's on
intervention."
alcohol.
He's
I
on the alcohol.
Yeah.
I've got that, but that's not, that's not an
That's not a
issue.
problem.
I've had problems with drugs in the past, and I recognize that about myself, so I avoid those kind of things to make sure I'm not in that position, because that's an area where my willpower has been weak in the past. But in a lot of other situations, like in smoking or whatever, I can just turn it on and off and not have to worry about it. And there are people like that or greater, at magnitudes greater than that, who can just do all kinds of things and then just like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not bending my convictions for anything. I'm not bending my feelings on
Right.
something for anybody, and they don't. I mean, a lot of people will say that, but there's very few who actually can follow through to the extent necessary, and those are the people you have to watch out for if they get into trying to curse people. Now, the other good thing about that is people at that level of willpower generally are also very logical people, and they also
Right.
usually don't get into that kind of stuff because they don't believe in it. And
Right.
that's not saying anything positive or negative about them, or to say that it's all silly mumbo jumbo, because obviously, while we're talking about it here, it's a thing that happens. But the combination of people with a high willpower who also have a belief in that kind of thing to basically force it over the willpower of other people is very rare, which is good, but it is possible.
So what I want to do is, because James asked a question, I want to answer that, but I want to kind of give my take real quick on something you said. The willpower in and of itself is probably the most important. Now, I want to touch on something because you mentioned this. I don't think curses have the wherewithal power that we have, that they used to have, because you don't have a specific large group of people believing in the same thing like you used to in regards to those kinds of things. You don't have your druids, you don't have your Wiccans, you don't have like, your Sufi Muslims, you don't have the more mystic Kabbalah driven Jewish faith. I mean, you still have all of these, right? But it's not as large. Relatively speaking, in today's day and age, we live in a more secular society. Whether that's good or bad,
Zealotry is kind of
yes,
lesser.
yes,
I mean, you've got that in some of the, jihadism and things like
of
that.
course,
But
of
and
course,
here you've got the Christian nationalists. But regardless, that's very, very tiny. The overall
right,
zealotry
right.
as a mass thing is a lot lower.
But I think too, in that regard, right? Um, it's hard for somebody to say, yeah, I curse you, but I don't think we have the mental willpower as people now unless you are into the practices of, say, voodoo or something like that, to where
Mhm.
that can affect you. I think for the most part, people just say, oh, whatever. And they just keep it pressing because we
Yeah.
don't have that kind of energy that we used to, because they've did research on the collective power of prayer, and prayer has a certain energy that they have measured in different aspects. Like there's a certain level of energy that they measured at the Kaaba in Mecca when
Mhm.
everybody walks around it. There's a
Yeah.
certain level of faith that they literally push forward, and it's almost like an energy wave that has been measured and been proven to exist because, like you said, human willpower. However, that doesn't make up the whole entire earth. So I think because
Mhm.
we are less religious than we used to be as human beings, I think a lot of those curses don't have that power, because you don't
Mhm.
have you don't have a lot of people that believe in the same belief system. And I think what it is, I think they have those um back, let's go back to Salem days when everybody thought that everybody was a witch, right? It would be more easier to curse somebody back then because everybody else in your circles believed it. So they had the energy pouring into it. You had the energy pouring into it. So it was this
Mhm.
big, huge energy wave. Nowadays, you'd be like, yeah, I'm cursing you in the name of a Wiccan god. You're like, all right, still got to go to work tomorrow. Hurry up, get it
Mhm.
over with, because we don't have that collective power that we used to. To get on the W box, that isn't so much of a curse as that's more of like a trapped spirit inside of a box, a Judaic trapped spirit. Some people say that I think once again, this is a case of, if somebody just gives you the box, and the way we are as people, or the way I am, or the way Spider is, or the way that, Deadpool is, or, the intern, I should say, oh, I revealed a secret identity on
Oh,
stage. Oh
except that
no.
it's right there under my tag, so it's
Right. So I think in that regard, we already know something's weird. You see a box looking like that, your first thought is, okay, what is this box about? What is the mystic aspect of the box? Now
fine.
take
Love it.
somebody that's never been brought up to a supernatural extent, right? Take somebody that doesn't know anything about supernatural stuff, that has lived on an island, right? But has not had similar like the people in, I think it was Brazil, that have never seen actual people in their life. I forget what their names are, but there's a certain group of people that have never been shown the outside world, but they are liable to be more superstitious, right, than somebody that's already known the world. So take somebody that has the mind of a secular individual and give them a W box. Would it be the same level of energy, the same level of spirit? Would that have the same effect? Because I harken back to the a show, American Gods, and the book was really good about this.
Mhm.
That you had to actually believe in something of that caliber,
Loki, loved it.
and the ability to actually um give them that energy. You were basically giving some of your energy to a god, to a being, right? But they called that, the people stopped believing in me, so I'm having harder and harder time trying
Mhm.
to exist to a smaller and smaller group of people. Now, is this the same for cursed objects? If you get a cursed tennis ball, right? It's a tennis
Wait
ball.
a minute.
But if you get a cursed box that's already dolled up to look like, hey, might be something else, is that because you're so used to seeing movies and TV shows where things like this are possibly cursed? Or is it just it's a box? I think a lot of these curses, I think a lot of the stuff that we see personally is more mind over matter than it is actual curses, based on the information we are given, based on horror movies. We've all seen that movie where somebody gets something, maybe a kid gets a toy and the toy has
Mhm.
a spirit in it, so the toy moves around on its own, that sort of thing. So we're already predispositioned to think that's cursed, right? Take somebody that doesn't have that same thought process. It's almost like you'd have to get an alien, give them this object, and scientifically see if in fact it does anything to them, or if it's like, huh, you know. And I think also with cursed objects, you have to be in tune with something like that. You have to be like somewhat open to the concept of being cursed. I don't think you can just get cursed. Like, you know, if you don't know somebody, I don't think you can really just randomly curse them. Or else, if that was the case, world leaders,
I'd be
our
doing it all the
presidents,
time.
would be cursed, and they're not. You know,
Remember
I
the
got funny
episode
stuff
of
to
Death
say about
Note
that.
where the president got
please,
the
please
death
go
note?
ahead.
I loved it.
I've got a few things to address for that, actually.
Please.
That last part, it's funny because the last two elections,
Ooh.
and I'm not going to get
Oh.
into the politics one way or the other,
I
the
think I
last two
remember this.
elections had cases of, on the one hand, you've got, we've got faith leaders, we're going to pray over a person, and they're going to win this election, and they're going to save democracy and whatnot. But you also had, it was funny, you had a group of Wiccan practitioners who got together to curse one of the candidates.
Oh no.
I remember
And I was
those.
just like, are
I think I
you
missed that one.
serious? Are you serious right now? And I don't know if it worked. Who knows? Because I didn't pay
Right.
enough attention. And nobody talks about it anymore, so who cares?
Yeah.
But it's just interesting because there are still groups of people who at least believe on
Yes.
some level that working together, they can do some of these things. I also want to address something in the comments. I know Aleister Crowley came up. And he's a good example of a person who initially, for a long while, had a lot of charisma, he had a lot of willpower, he had a lot of people who believed in the things that he said. And he eroded all of it away by getting really kind of crazy with all the drugs, with all the stuff he got into. He got into hedonism,
say
like
parties.
way over the line, and that became his focus. Like he lost focus of everything that was smart about him, and he lost track of all that. And one more thing, back to your discussion. We were talking about American Gods, and the
Yes, sir.
whole point of that is that an idea is only as powerful or only as living as the amount of people who believe in that idea.
Yeah.
The more people who believe that if something is a fact, the more likely it is to be accepted as a fact, whether it is
And
or
that's
not.
scientific.
We've seen a lot of things. On one hand. On the other hand, it's also mob rules, herd mentality, and it gets people into trouble. We've seen some problems over that over the last several years of things being presented as fact when they're not exactly. When there's evidence that shows, well, maybe not, we should explore both sides, and the consensus is no. We're not going to. We're going to accept this side and this side only. I can't get into more specifics about that because YouTube will definitely censor us and kick us off for that. But I know everybody knows what I'm talking about. And that's what you find. You find that the more people who are on board with something, whether they actually believe it or not, is not even the point. It's that they see all these other people that, oh, yeah, they believe that this is true. This must be true. Okay. Boom. It's true. And that's how certain things, I think a lot of these curses that you see on the show, like I think the Robert the Doll curse, I think the Hope Diamond curse now, I think the King Tut's curse, and a few of those other things may have started out very small. And if they were legitimate in small circles. But the more they were talked about, the more they were disseminated around, the more people poured in their belief that this is a thing, this is gonna hurt you, this is gonna hurt people. It became to take on a life of its own, and now it's a collective willpower situation where all of this little like underpowered willpower that most people have has joined together into a cloud of, yes, this is going to happen.
Yeah, almost like a chain. Because I mean, shoot, you already know, and you're gonna look at something like Robert the Doll that's trapped in a box, trapped in a glass case, and like, what's this about? And then once you read it, it's already been implanted into your brain that, okay,
you're
know,
part of the masses now. The idea is in
Yeah.
there, and so many people have that same idea.
Yeah.
You might not even necessarily believe it yet, but the idea is there, and you're part of that collective thought process.
And I've always wondered, like Spider's talking about like mob mentality and all that stuff, like scientists, if we don't actually understand the science ourselves, we're just relying on them to tell us the truth, but they're scientists. they actually understand it, and they could deceive us because they understand it so well. They could just be like, the sky's blue because the clouds urinate blue water, and we would believe it because they're scientists and we don't know any better.
There's a lot
Well,
of politicized things with that, where a
yeah, I
lot of
agree.
groups
Yeah.
are bought, like studies are paid for to find a certain outcome. To find a legitimate neutral science panel on anything these days is kind of difficult because there's no money in that, and everybody's out to make money.
I want to answer this question: is a curse an act of God? That's an interesting point to bring up. I think in a
Well,
way it can be, but I don't think on the same token, if it's an act of God, it's not. Oh, see, y'all started it. If it's not, or if it is, I think it's to rectify a situation, or it's to allow for a situation, right? Because when Pharaoh was cursed, it was because he was holding the Jews basically hostage. He was holding them prisoner and he wouldn't release them. So God said, okay, I'm going to inflict these curses on you because I want you to let my people leave, let them go, right? So he just kept doing it. The locust, turning the water to blood, killing his firstborn son, the boils and everything else that appeared on people's skin. This was because the people were prisoners. So I think if we're talking about that God specifically, we're talking about Yahweh Elohim, then in that regard, it is in fact because he himself wanted his people. Because let's take a second here to understand this. The Old Testament is a survival manual for the Jewish people. That's what we have to understand, because they are a people that are small in number and they rise and they get bigger, but in the beginning they're small in number. So they have to do things so that they're still alive, right? The same things that we would have to do if we were a small amount of people. If America was just a small group of people, we would have to do things to survive. And if we had a God that was omnipotent and could help us, then we would curse people that were against us. That just makes sense. So in that regard, yes. However, there are other gods that are maniacal, that will curse just to curse. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just because it's cursed. So I think you have to look at it by a belief system by belief system basis. You can't just look at one belief system and say, okay, there's a reason that this curse has happened, and then look at another and say there isn't one. I think you have to do that in a way that people can look at it and say, okay, in this religion, they believe that curses do this, but in this religion, they believe the curses do this. Kind of like what I just said. I just kind of got a little confused in my brains there for a second, but you can't do a blanket statement of curses for all religions. That's what I meant to say. You can't just say all religions is a curse and act of God. I think you have to look at each religion, and then you have to understand why the curse is like that. Are the Egyptian tomb curses an act of God? Do they only impact those who believe in it? Well, for the most part, a lot of that stuff has been kind of disproven to be curses, and more because they opened up tombs with bacteria and air in it that
a
hadn't been
series of
opened
unfortunate
in
events.
years, thousands of years. You know what I mean? So yeah, they were breathing in that dust, they were breathing in that air, and the bacteria hit their lungs and got them sick, and things like that happen. Also, I think too, yes, it did impact those who believe it, because there have been instances, the statue of Osiris being one of those that was taken out of Egypt, and the statue itself even says in hieroglyphs, "Do not remove, don't take from here," right? And they knew that. It said don't remove, and then people started dying. One of the the professors that had it ended up dying, I think, in the shower. Now, is
One
that
of the
because
things
the
about that,
statue was there, or was it because of the predetermined notion?
not to derail you too far, it's only going to
No,
be a
you're good,
quick,
man.
like,
No, you're fine.
one of
Go
the
ahead. You
things
continue.
about that is that newspapers at the time, there
Excuse me.
was at least one journalist who was also an archaeologist, but not as
Yes.
good of an archaeologist as the folks who opened up the Tutankhamun tomb. He was jealous of them, and his initial thought was, "Oh yeah, you know what? You guys went in there, you got the curse now." And he wrote about it in the newspaper. The newspaper got read by a lot of people. All of a sudden, people believe there's a curse. They tell their friends. More people believe there's a curse. The media got a hold of it outside of that newspaper. More people believed it was a curse. It became the idea of a curse,
Right.
regardless of whether it actually existed. So when people did start dying of pneumonia, of various things that naturally could happen in that part of the world, it became, oh, it's because of the curse. And that began to affect more people because the idea and belief grew to such a level that it became a curse.
I also want to say too, I think it depends where you get said object from. I think there are places like India, especially India, because a lot of diamonds and jewels that have come out of India have a tendency to sort of remove the person from the planet Earth. So, in my opinion, you don't know what you're dealing with in that regard. I think that India is a very ancient country that we don't know too much about in terms of how much we know about Greece and Rome, because India is a lot different. And I think that I think there's things that people might not really understand because it's ancient times, like times that none of us here, none of our ancestors really have seen.
It's all
when you go
conjecture.
back. And it really is. Like I can't prove it to you. I can't go to India right now. You guys can give me a plane ticket and I'll fly over and I'll let you know. But the one of them, they said they pried it from the eye of Brahma himself. It was a statue of Brahma, and they pried the eye right out of it. Is that possible? Sure. It was taken back by a Jesuit, which we're going to get into the Jesuits here at some point because it's a very interesting conversation. Not today, but that's going to be a topic. So I think it depends. I think, like you said, a lot of it is preconceived notion. I think a lot of it is, like Spider said, it takes on the energy of everybody who believes in it, and then it twists itself a little bit like a game of telephone, if you will.
Mm.
I think Lighthouse is also not too far off point. The concept of the mechanism of misfortune. Things happen. Mathematically, things happen. You have to take it up mathematically, but I still think there is a solid 5% of things that we don't understand.
Like
And
we used to call it magic, but now it's chemistry.
Yeah, alchemy.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Yes.
Mm.
But I still think there are things there's forces out there that I believe that I've seen some things that I cannot explain personally on any form or fashion that that could be the cause of that. But once again, I think it's a very low number. I think it is the same number that is in regards to demonic possession. How we talk about demonic possession. I personally think demonic possession's one of three things. Either A, the person has a very severe mental illness, like Annalise Michael, that they gave her antipsychotic drugs and then they just ripped them out of her. They didn't wean them off of her. They just made her stop cold turkey. And what that did was that just basically destroyed whatever help she was getting, and it made her worse than she was previous. So that's one. Two, I think demonic possession doesn't necessarily mean puking green slime and your head twisting and doing all that. I think it could be greed, lust, things of that nature. You know,
100%.
you're willing to step on everybody else to get what you want. That's more demonic possession. And then finally, which I think would be about 3 to 5% of the cases, are actually an entity, an actual, demonic persona that has taken root in somebody. But for the most part, I think that is a very small percentage. I think most of it, like I said, is a mental, I don't want to say a mental illness of sorts, or we look at things like, I sold, I sold Steven's house to Spider right from under him. I did what it could because I wanted to make that money. And I didn't care if I hurt you or not. Didn't care. Didn't even think about it. You went to sleep at night, had a cup of hot chocolate, had my sleep cap on with the little fuzzy ball at the end, and just fell asleep, right? Just fell asleep. Didn't think about it. I think that's the other form of demonic possession that we just we overlook. Sorry about the coughing, guys. It gets a little late and season change and all that Jupiter jazz. And Steven, I didn't mean to call you out or anything on that, but I just wanted to a good
yeah, you're good.
A good thing. So that's
Good
what
example.
I think. And I think it's the same way with curses. I think it depends on the item. Because I've noticed like certain things people curse, right? But I've never seen there's certain items I just don't see being cursed. Right? A lot of times people will curse things that people have intimate relations with. I don't mean intimate relations like a lot of you knuckleheads are out there thinking, so knock it off. But it's something you keep with you. It's something that you hold esteem over, right?
Yeah, like when
I
you're
don't
playing Persona and you hit the max social link.
that's nerd talk, and I don't understand any of it. All right, I don't get your nerd jargon. Okay, but it'd be like, cursing somebody's, I don't know, rake. Right? They might use it for a season, but then that's it. They just throw it back in the garage. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure there's a case, and somebody's going to go out there and find it, and they're going to send me a thing that says, "There's a cursed rake," and I'll be like, "Okay."
Let's go buy it.
Or like a cursed doorknob, a cursed cardboard box.
You
a
can't
lot
even
of
sell
times
that stuff on eBay anymore.
I know, because it'd be easy. I'd be like, I have a cursed GameCube box. So, but that's the thing, is like a lot of times curses are more of a personal thing, like a doll or something that the human comes in contact with frequently enough, right? Because if we're like, yeah, I curse your,
Easy
This is
there.
a family
Rip.
show, sir.
Easy there.
I didn't.
Not you.
Not you.
Mammoth.
The comments.
That's what I'm saying.
Comments.
You shall rust.
Comments there.
Hey. I would fall for a cursed PS5. Then I could play a cursed Silent Hill too. So yes, I think that it has to be essentially something that persons interact with. And I don't need to see it in the chat. You funny guys, your personal massagers. Mammoth, you don't got to talk about the stuff you own. We don't need to know that. Jeez. I don't want to talk about it either.
Something similar on an episode of Supernatural, and I'll just leave it at that.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug. Anyways, so that's what I think. I think a lot of the times that when people do the whole concept of curses, I think that we have to really look and get down and see, okay, what's the item? What's the intent? Who are the parties involved? Right? And what do the parties believe? And I think a lot of people were more superstitious back then than they are today. People aren't as superstitious. They're a little stitious. They're a little stitious, but they're not superstitious. They're the
normal stitious.
They will believe just about anything, though. That's the other thing. Like, as much as, because if you frame something as,
but not on a superstitious level. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think we've traded one thing for the other. I think we've traded one thing for the other. Where people were too superstitious, I think people are too secular at this point. I think I don't think it's a curse. I think that's the consequences of said injustice. I think if you kill enough people and then you yourself die, I don't think that's so much of a curse. That's what people would say, karma coming back to you. I don't think it's a curse. But there's probably people who've killed a lot of people and still walk the earth and nobody knows that they've done it. I think that's just, once again, case by case basis.
And you have a lot of things like on that.
I don't know what anybody's talking about. I'm a good guy.
Yeah.
I'm a good guy, good
We're all
friend.
good guys here.
Good friends, good guys. That's a new podcast. It's about sports.
The majority of most modern American serial killers originated in Ohio. Like, that's where they were born and raised before they might have gone other places.
And most of them are Virgos. And there's only one of us here that's a Virgo, and it's a 1 out of 3 that one of your friends is a serial killer. So.
That's just some statistics for everybody out there.
That's statistics. So you think that because of things like slavery, which would be a lot of times, please don't curse my spectacles. These are the ones I've got. I don't have any more. I need to be able to see. Things like slavery.
It took forever to get him to get those. Don't even start.
Yeah, we're uncannily blocking.
I had to work real hard to get him to get those.
He did. He was like, "Get them glasses." He drove me to my eye appointments because I couldn't see. I think when you're dealing with, like I said, you bring over a mass amount of people, you bring their religion with them, you bring their beliefs with them. So when they go to curse you, right, they have the backing of everybody you brought with you. Episodes. Yeah, there was squinting episodes. Trying to read, that was a pain.
Betrayal.
You bring people with you that believe the same way you do. So once again, like we said before, it's energy. You're putting the energy, and you have enough people around you, and you're causing sorrow. I think that amplifies the curse. I don't think anybody's sitting around counting stacks of money and cursing their friends. I curse you to have more money. You know what I mean? I just don't think that's going to happen. That's not a curse. Well, it can be.
Curses are negative, right?
What'd you say?
Don't curses have to be negative to be?
Curses are negative, and blessings are positive.
Blessings are positive.
Blessings are positive. And blessings don't necessarily mean blessings from a deity or a holy
No.
source. It's just a,
Good
you know,
thing
it's
that
a
happens.
more spiritual thing now. It's you've got a lot going on in your life. Hey, you're blessed. You've got a great job.
Yeah.
You've got a great house. You're
Yep.
blessed. So blessed.
Exactly.
Hashtag that.
Hashtag blessed.
Hashtag so
Hashtag live,
blessed.
laugh, love. So yeah. Yeah. When you're hashtagging living, laughing, and loving, you're gonna be blessed. Bless this home and bless this mess. Okay. That's I thought curses would be more like negative prayers in a way that makes sense because
Yes.
it's that intent.
I can
Prayers are
see that.
intent as well. But however, like we said before, I think that takes willpower. There are cursed hashtags. We've made them. Blog about it. Have a balloon. All cursed hashtags. I think curses themselves take energy. You have to have energy. I've talked to people that have put curses on. I'm not gonna put them out there, but I've had conversations with people that have done this, and it's all the intent. And the other person has to be a receptacle for your intent. If they're not, if they're stone cold closed off, your curse does nothing. Like I said, it's willpower. If their willpower is greater than yours, your curse isn't going to work. Then they just send you back the item 3 weeks later. Now, what interests me is things like Robert the doll, where people have wrote letters to him, the doll itself, and said, "Hey, can you not curse me? Could you please not curse me?" That's because these spectacles are curse proof. Actually, they have that was part of my my eye care plan. Is I get non-cursed lenses.
Skill check versus curses +5.
Yep, and I win because it's uncanny. And uncanny gets a 10-point plus surrounding check. And as long as people are checking out his check marks on the check mark site, you get checked. So don't get checked or get wrecked. Get shreked. Hashtag that. Yeah. So I think when we're talking about curses, it's all in willpower. At the end of the day, I don't think that you have the ability anymore to curse me than I have the ability to curse you if one of us isn't going to allow it. It's just like if you ever get blitzkrieged, just say no. And then they have to stop the blitzkrieging. Nobody ever did that. Nobody said, "Hey, stop blitzkrieging," because they didn't stop. But I think, like I said, it's all in what you know, what you've learned. Because obviously, like we said, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy with a lot of this stuff, right? And are you going to live in fear of it? It's like we've talked about it. Somebody says, "Hey," and I like how Spider brought you just make it as generic as humanly possible. Because if it's too specific, you're in the same boat as the people that have predicted the world's ending.
Yeah.
And then that comes to pass. Like, well, I forgot to carry the 2. It's going to end in
On November the 12th at 4:24 p.m., you will be struck by lightning while standing on a hill petting a sheep.
Right.
Well, I guess I'm just not going to do that, and then I'm not going to get struck by lightning.
Right.
You've defeated the curse.
But then somehow you end up doing it.
That's predestination theory, so that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. I think fear is one of the biggest. I don't know who Clighthouse is. Is that Clighthouse?
I was having.
Nope, you're done. You're done. You're done. It's over for you, champ. Have a good one. I think that I agree with you. I think fear is probably out of all of them, that's the worst. But like I said, I still think there's energies that if you're around them, they can attach themselves to you. So if you're in the wrong place, wrong time type of situation, yes. But just a normal curse, no. It's like in the Bell Witch's Cave, people were taking rocks home, right? And then they were facing these curses and the rocks had to be sent back. But the number I always see, 1024, is today's date.
Nice.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
I like 2048. Oh, wait, that's a game.
Do we all have numbers here that we like?
I like
Spider, do you have a number you like?
I like 8.
I am the number 9 in most of my various numerology things because that's the end of all things, and that's where I sit. So,
oh, that's fun.
Okay, so
that means it's about the end of the show, almost, isn't it?
so in your made-up number world, 9 is your favorite. Okay.
Hypotheticals flying off into the sunset with my fingers.
Right. Because you're an asparagus. It makes sense. You're an asparagus.
Right.
Have you ever realized it is?
I think for me, it's probably number 7.
Wait, 7, 8, 9? How did that work out? We did not plan this.
No, I just like the number 7.
I like 8 because
number of spirituality.
When you try to push 8 down, you give it infinite power. Because if you knock over 8, it becomes infinity.
Is that on your like nerdy Persona game where you play as like Yu-Gi-Oh and fight?
No, it's just
against,
something I've made up on my own
against the Dragon Balls. Is that the game where you get the Dragon Balls?
I like
You-
8
you-
because if you try to
You're
destroy
shining
it
with your
and knock it
zeros.
over, you only give it more power.
Is that the game with Mewtwo?
Yeah.
We're
that one.
horrible friends. That's fine.
Shining with your
I like
zeros
big-
while you're catching your Digimon.
I curse you with big numbers in your bank account there, Lighthouse.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I
It's
like I
gonna
said,
overflow out of your bank until your bank explodes.
right,
no.
right to your bank just continues infinitesimal. I don't know what I'm doing. So this will be the last episode of Curses. Next week we're gonna have some people in. If you would like to join in next week, drop us a line. We will be having some people in. I know Apple was talking about it. Maybe we can get Lighthouse in on this thing. Anyways, I wouldn't mind getting Scruffy in on it, maybe Sound Zeus, where we can all have Ghost Tube set up and we're all going to run Ghost Tube and just sit here and act a fool for our because it will be actual Halloween next week. We're going to have a Halloween
I brought out the
show
skull glasses.
on
So no,
Halloween.
it's the season.
And I have the other one, so you will see me with that skull glass next week. We will be sculling it up. So, anyways, I want to give a big thank you to everybody that showed up. Zora, Lighthouse, Apple, Mammoth, Feet. Who else showed up? Scruffy, Zeus. I think I said Mammoth. Mammoth says Spook Duke, Spider, Steven, for you guys showing up. I know it's hard for some of you to show up. No, don't be scared. It's all fun and games. My house is old too, though. My house is from the 60s. So your house is from
background is
older than that
ugly.
one.
So
What'd
This
you say?
house is probably about 100 years old.
Mine's now my parents' one, that was a different one. House was like 100, 150. So that was an old,
Thank you,
old
James.
house. James, you're welcome to join with us too if you'd like. You know, I mean, I know you don't play around with that kind of stuff, so I just would throw the invite out. But yeah, let us know. Mine is late 1800s. Okay, well, that'll do it for us. I hope you guys enjoyed your time with us tonight. And if you did, please like, please comment, please subscribe, and please share this video to your friends and family. Send it to everybody you know, and then tell them to watch the show because it's a great show. We love doing it. You know, we love everybody that comes in and shows us love, and we do it big here. You can find me personally at Uncanny Alchemist on Twitch. I will be streaming here actually in a little bit because the new Black Ops 6 dropped. So I have been playing the campaign on that. I know some of us here don't like that, but that's
I'm here rolling my eyes about it.
some of
But
us-
hey,
some of
you
us
do
here
you.
are playing 8-bit games.
You
You
do
know,
you.
hey,
we-
we're
we
just
won't say
glad he's got a
who.
good game for
We
So
won't-
himself.
do you
won't-
over there
we
with the
won't-
thing
we
and the
won't
Black
say.
Ops and the stuff.
The
Hey,
campaign, but it's on Game Pass, so you know, whatever.
At least it's
um,
free. Free is better
No,
than
I
cheap.
wouldn't. I would definitely not pay $70 for this game. No,
Not for Call of Duty anymore.
no, not for most games this day and age. Also, you can find Spider DMRGN.
DMG.
Whatever.
RGN.
Whatever.
Get the
Why don't
letter
you get-
right.
So
Why don't you
Get
get?
those
Why don't you get a
letters right over there.
normal? Why don't you get a
Letters.
normal Twitch
It's easy to
username
remember. It's
instead
just
of
6 letters.
DMGRGN?
DMGRGN.
It's some
Demidrogan,
letters.
Dungeon Master Gregory.
Or they can go to YouTube and watch all that stuff on
Don't do that.
Spider Does Things,
Don't do
which
it.
is
No.
my preferred platform. He does the Twitch. I do
do
the
the Twitch.
Tube. I don't know what Steven does.
I do the nothing.
He does nothing. He bed rots.
Yeah.
He bed rots. You can find Steven when he's not being a bed rotter over at Deadpool Head 888 on Twitch. I've been trying to get him to stream more Black Myth Wukong, but he avoids it like the plague for some reason. I don't know why. He's got the avenue for it. So if you guys would like to donate to the channel, you can donate at PayPal. This Uncanny Earth. It always
Thank you,
helps keeps the
Lighthouse.
light on, and it really helps us to continue doing what we do. So that's This Uncanny Earth at PayPal. You can find my friend Lighthouse playing CK3. You can find Apple playing any sort of slice of life game about sushi or donuts. And you can find Scruffy streaming 76. Mammoth doesn't stream, but he joins us for streams when we stream 76. So you can just find us doing all kinds of fun stuff and having fun and doing fun things. Gentlemen, do you have anything coming up that people should be aware of?
Steven, what's your next episode?
Steven, what is
Next
it?
episode is I'm gonna go ahead and start doing some series that was actually recommended by our friend Rob up here. And he recommended, because we were talking about it in chat, and we found some strange YouTube channels that don't really make much sense. So we suggested we start a little series on that. So the next 4 episodes of my little sideshow on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time is going to be all about strange YouTube channels, including the
gonna be a good
Cicada
one.
Mystery,
Loved it.
3301, and
Loved it.
I think we're going to go ahead and start this weekend with channel 331534312. You got to say it like that. And time.
All right, Spider, what do you have coming up? What are you gonna annoy the people with?
Oh, I got lots of stuff. I got all kinds
Here
of
we
things.
go.
You can
Here we go.
you can always watch my my game videos. Right now, I'm still slogging my way through Final Fantasy as a franchise. I'm on Final Fantasy 3,
Nice.
and gosh, I thought 2 was slow.
Oh, you have no
3
idea.
is just ridiculously slow.
I
It doesn't
actually
feel like I'm
agree.
making headway at all.
Wait
But
till you hit the dungeon where you
The
have to shoot
tower.
characters. It's awful. Good
ugh,
luck. Good.
the job
luck.
situation is
The
just
tower.
it's not my best
Loved
jobs.
it, though.
But so I'm doing that.
Okay.
You can also watch the various Uncanny Spirits Club episodes. The early ones still have that guy in them, and occasionally he'll pop out once in a while in one of those episodes. And I've also got 2 radio shows that you can listen to on Spotify.
Ooh.
The first is Let's Talk About This, which is about various things that are family friendly. Because my
Yes.
daughter listens to them.
Like nachos and unicorns.
I just had new episodes. I had an episode about musicals because I hate them. And so I had an episode about them. And because it was Halloween, I talked about Little Shop of Horrors, which I think I was in that in school, and I don't remember anything about it. I was in it, and I don't remember. I don't know.
He was grass number 3.
Probably that was the extent of my acting ability. I don't have any chops for that. And then the other show is a new show that's basically talking about anything and everything. I have a pilot episode up where I talk about the Diddy drama and various wrestling things. So
Wrestling.
that's for the adults, but it's not like going to be like it's not going to be like
It's
that
gonna
in
have
the adult
English.
manner. It's
Yeah,
just
it'll
going to
in
be
English. Whatever you just said wasn't English.
definitely
but it'll be
will.
in English.
Yeah.
It'll be oriented towards more mature subject matter and things like that, like news and various things like that. So I got that. Both of those are on Spotify. Go ahead and give them a listen and watch all of our various things.
Please.
Because we've
Please
got a
support
lot
us.
of things going on.
Like I said, if you'd like to donate to the channel, you can do so at This Uncanny Earth at PayPal. So if you're like, hey, I would love to buy those guys a coffee, or hey, I'd like to buy those guys a meal, please, by all means, we use it for the channel. We use it for the upkeep of everything that we go through. So I
That
hope you
can
guys
get eventually towards funds for shirts, funds
Yeah.
for stickers, funds for all
Merch,
kinds
baby.
of good things for you folks or for trips.
trips.
yeah,
It can
that
fund
reminds me.
gas for trips.
Yes, because the trips aren't cheap.
No.
So, but we have some
Everything is
good
expensive.
ideas for that. And we're going to be delving more into that as we continue on our progressive push towards whatever it is we're going to do. We're going to make it. We're going to make it. Ain't no other choice. Anyways,
We're
for
gonna make it
myself,
after all.
as long as we try. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. That's it for Spider, and that's it for the intern. We will see you guys next week for our grandiose Halloween episode featuring a good chunk of us. So y'all be good. Y'all take care of each other. And as always, why be boring when you can be uncanny? We will see you folks next week. Peace. It's spooky time. Spooky. Don't